All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bold Life, Bold Move Challenge 23. My name is Tracy Justice, and I am the Be Bold coach and consultant. And today I'm back with another episode. Today, this person that I've creeped into, well, first, let me talk about what I'm doing on the show, right? So I'm on social media, I'm out and about, and I'm looking at different people who are inspiring me, right? Like as entrepreneurs, sometimes we just need to see what other people are doing just to kind of get that motivation and that inspiration that we're looking for. And this particular person has been motivating me, has inspired me. When I first started in 2021, wanting to branch out to start my own business, I started looking at different websites to get a better idea of, what people are doing out in the community. And this particular person, caught my attention. Really, and it stopped me because he's Nigerian, first generation Nigerian, um, uh, Nigerian born, and first generation of Nigerian born family. But I know he'll come on and correct me. But I wanted to interview him and just ask him a few questions and just share some of the things that he's doing with you as well. So, welcome, Andrew Adeniyi, who is the CEO and founder of AAA Solutions. So, welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. It's a pleasure.
Yes, yes, thank you. So I know you kind of heard me what I said about why I creeped into your DM, and is all of the things that you're doing. There was even one social media, and I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about what you do before we get into the questions. But there was one social media post that I recall, and it said something about I'm going to be the leading, or my company is going to be the leading company of DEI in the Midwest, something along those lines. Do you remember that post? Do you know what
Yes,
post I'm talking about?
absolutely. Yeah, that is the vision for AAA Solutions. So it's to become the largest Black-owned DEI consulting firm in the Midwest by 2030. And the why behind that is because with size and with scale, you can impact a lot many more lives and organizations. And my goal is to be able to improve workplace cultures everywhere. So that's the
I know
North
that's
Star, if you
right.
will.
And you know what? And that's such a bold move, right? Like that's such a bold statement to say, like, I am going to the Midwest, right? Because we're not just talking about Indiana, we're talking about all the states that fall into the Midwest. So why DEI? Why is that your passion?
Wow. The George Floyd murder, I think, was an igniting moment for me where I realized I was becoming desensitized. I was just on a podcast talking about this, and I realized I was becoming desensitized to unarmed Black men being killed at the hands of police. And for some reason, the George Floyd murder just resonated with me differently. And I think it's because I just had my son not too long ago. So I had a son, and I realized in that moment, if I didn't do something differently when he's my age, he's going to experience the same things. And for some reason, that was the light switch where it was like, I'm willing to dedicate my professional career to changing this situation. So I think that is really the I would say the pivotal moment for me where I realized DEI was it for me.
Wow, that's really deep. Because I agree, and I hear what you're saying when you say the desensitize as well. Because I would say it was around that time that I learned about DEI. I myself didn't even really know about DEI until that time. And it seemed like every organization was just like, oh my God, we need to have DEI. We need to have DEI. And for me, it was just like, what exactly is DEI? But that was a pivotal moment, I think, for everyone. If for some of us who didn't know what DEI was, um, we got to learn it. And for some of us who become desensitized by hearing it every single day, we just got so used to it. Um, I agree. I also have two Black boys as well, and it's sad to say they're not light skinned either, right? If we keep it real, so and sometimes it's a little scary when you think about that. Um, so yeah, so then what's your why? Then what keeps you at this point, right? Because George, not to say that things have gotten better or things are different, but what keeps you in it now? Because a lot of people have died off from the George Floyd incident. What keeps you moving forward now?
I am DEI. My life is DEI. My family's DEI. My friends are DEI. The workplace is DEI. So for me, it's been so ingrained in my mind what it is and why it matters that the thought of even deviating from that doesn't even come to mind for me. The other thing I would mention is, so I wrote a book called The Circle of Leadership, and that book is all about how do you create and leverage culture in the workplace. And one of the chapters in that book was on DEI, and that came out summer of 2020. So that's when DEI really started to pick up, as you mentioned, and that's when that service in particular became very popular and commonly requested, right? And that's where DEI became kind of in the spotlight, and culture was a little bit more in the background. Where I actually started doing this consulting and training work with workplace culture as a whole in the spotlight, and DEI kind of more secondary. But again, that George Floyd murder is what I think swung it the other way. But those are still two pillars in our business that we focus on: workplace culture and DEI. So I would say that it's so intertwined in my life that that's my why. The other thing I would mention is two-thirds of people hate their job in this country. Strongly dislike their workplace, right? And that's a problem to me, and it's a problem because that's controllable, and leadership and culture is behind what can turn that ship around. So for me, there's work that needs to be done. That's the other thing that keeps me going. There's workplaces that are toxic, where people are experiencing burnout, where aren't getting appreciated or recognized for their work, skipped over for promotions, not being treated well. That is happening all across the country as we speak, and that bothers me. So I want to change that.
And I could tell because you look like you're shaking, like you ready to about to go do something right now. But
Yeah,
yeah, but exactly when we talk about the great resignation, that's exactly it, right? Like people aren't happy with their jobs. They're not, they're tired of being looked over. They're tired of just not feeling like they are valued. They're just that transactional thing that's there to do the job, nothing else. Um, so okay, so thank you for sharing that with us. So let's get into the questions, right? So
yeah.
what are you being bold about, right? So this show is about like uh, helping others see that yes, you're out here making moves, but it even though it seems effortlessly, there are some still ways that you still have to push through. So when you think about your goals, what are you being bold about this year for 2023?
I think just continuing this entrepreneurship journey. It's a roller coaster ride, and social media and the outside world, they get the highlights. They get the highlight reel, but they don't see the challenges that go on behind closed doors, and when nobody's looking. So I think just continuing to be bold and believe that I'm walking in my purpose. I'm uniquely equipped and gifted by God to do the work that I do. I put in the time. I have my 10,000 hours, and there's people who I need to serve at the end of the day. So for me, that's kind of the big, bold move, if you will. I would say one specific goal that I have, though, is to finish my book, The Building Blocks of Belonging in the Workplace. So that's the second book that I'm going to be writing. The first book was on workplace culture primarily. This book will be on DEI primarily. So my goal is to have that out by late 2023. So knock on wood. So working tirelessly on that as well. So that's another bold move that I would share as well.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so I'm going to hold you accountable to that 20 to your to finishing your book. So building blocks. Say that
Of
again.
the building blocks of belonging.
The building blocks of belonging. And we're looking at late 2023. How about we put a month? How about we put a month? Make it a little bit more real, right? Cuz the end of 23 is a little too vague.
I was going to tell you between October and December.
Oh, okay. October, December. Okay,
Yeah,
at least that's a good. Okay, so we're talking about fourth
fourth
quarter
quarter.
2023.
Yep, fourth
Okay.
quarter.
I love that. And okay, so then what's your one word? And I forgot to put the question on, but what's your one word to describe your focus, right? So you're talking about getting your building blocks of belonging done by the fourth quarter of 2023. What's that one word that's going to keep you focused?
I would say acceleration.
What does acceleration mean?
To me, it means continuous improvement. It means progress. It means challenging the status quo, and it means innovating.
Love
So
that. And so, and like you said earlier, you talked about entrepreneurship. It's a up and down roller coaster, right? So when you feel like that weight, right? Because when you're down and you're feeling that weight of falling down, like everything is coming on you. There's so many things that you have to do, right? Because it's not just work; it's family too, right? You have a family, you're married, so there's other things that you have to consider when you're thinking about acceleration. So when something, so what what's one way for you to what's going to keep you moving forward when you don't feel like accelerating, when you feel like putting your foot on the brakes a bit?
Well, it's about knowing your purpose, right? And that's part of what I teach on from a workplace culture standpoint is what's your why? And do you know that why? And is it compelling enough to inspire and motivate you on the days where you're not feeling it? And my purpose is rooted in God. It's to inspire others, to ensure I can use it as a means to let people know how great God is. And the journey I'm on right now is one of faith. Excuse me. It's one of faith, and that's the reason I'm here. So in those moments where it's challenging, I have to remind myself I'm not here by accident. Like, this is not a coincidence that I'm doing this work at this time, that I'm approaching it like this. This was designed. I was built for this moment. I've been preparing for this moment, even though I didn't know this moment was going to come in this way, right? And it's all because of God. So,
Mm-hmm.
so usually that is what picks me up in the moments where it may get challenging.
And I love that, because part of my change philosophy too, when I'm in coaching, is that you have to know who you are. Like you really, really have to know who you are. And it sounds like you know who you are. And because you know who you are, you can walk in that. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to have down days, right? Because that's what I'm hearing you say. It's like you're not saying it's a walk in the park. You're not saying that, it's just smooth sailing. What I'm hearing you say is that it's because you believe in a higher power. And that higher power is what gives you the strength, but because you know who you are, you can tap into that higher power with boldness, right? Because you can come boldly before the throne and truly ask for what it is that you need. And you're getting it, you're walking it, you're living it. So now when we think about where you are in relation to your goals right now, so you talked about your book, and we're talking about fourth quarter to be complete with it.
Yeah.
Where are you in relation to that? Like, where are you right now?
So I have the entire outline completed. I have resources and statistics, reports, etc., strategically placed within the different chapters that I'm going to use for reference. And right now, it's all about crafting stories. Right. So the general flow of each chapter is going to be there's going to be a story of some kind. There's going to be statistics to really bring home, what we're talking about, and then there's going to be a strategy, right? Anywhere from 1 to 3 things people can do to navigate that, right? So that's where I'm at now, and I've just finished my introduction, sent that over to my executive assistant. So she gave her scan, and I'm going to have an editor start reading that. And my goal is to keep knocking out a chapter by chapter as we go.
All right, kudos to you because you are moving quite along. You just might be done before the fourth quarter. I mean, I don't know how long the
Well,
book process is, but what did you say?
I made a lot of progress, and then I put it on the shelf for several months. So
Oh, okay.
all this work didn't just happen overnight, but the goal is more so to ensure that there's a consistent approach to it to actually finish it. I think I saw a statistic, only like 2% of people who start writing a book actually finish it. And but since I had the pleasure of writing my first book, I'm aware of some of the challenges and some of the things I may need to do to ensure that I actually get it done.
All right. All right. And so, thank you so much for sharing that. I don't want you to share too much of the book, so that we can definitely, be surprised when we read it and, be ready for it. Um, what are you planning? How are you planning to celebrate when that book is complete?
There'll be some sort of book launch that I'll do. I don't know what that event looks like, but there'll be some type of book launch. I plan to kind of get a community of people together to help me start reviewing chapters early on, providing feedback, getting guidance on things like that. That's what I did with my first book, and that ended up being a really good tactic because by the time the book was actually ready, I'd already had people who were interested in pre-ordering it, had pre-order sales before I actually launched the book live. So basically, I was able to get a community of folks to bring along the writing journey, give them kind of a first in-depth look, and I plan to replicate that for this process.
Okay. So the successes or the wisdom, the awareness that you learned from the previous book is exactly what you're going to bring to this book. But
Yeah.
um, you're going to have quite a few people. You're hoping to have a community around you celebrating.
Mhm.
Hopefully, you think of me,
Yeah,
Andrew,
absolutely.
because I could definitely be a part of helping to launch the book. So what advice would you give to those that are listening? And because I mean, well, I guess I didn't even say this. Kind of, if you don't mind, can you briefly talk about your journey from being an employee to a full-time entrepreneur? Because I think that sometimes, when we hear this, we think it's impossible. Do you mind kind of giving that story?
Yeah, so I think one of the first things I would encourage people to think about is, what's your purpose, right? And a couple of things you can do to try to unpack that. What do you feel like you're uniquely skilled at and gifted at? That's one question you need to answer. Then you need to think about what problems exist in the marketplace. And when we talk marketplace, we're talking about a market large enough to support you doing that work full time and making a living. So right, and you have to find alignment there. And what are you passionate about? Like, what are you willing to work on every day to get better? The alignment of those three things will bring you very close to your purpose, right? So figure that out. Once you figure that out, then you realize everything else you're doing is just a means to get to that. So now you think about it differently. So if for me, I want to make sure that I'm consulting and I'm training, how can I do that today? How can I do that in the midst of my 9 to 5? How can I work on my business in the midst of my 9 to 5? And I think that's important because I've worked at places where I didn't have the capacity, I didn't have the bandwidth to pour any more energy into my business, right? Or at least not at the pace that I wanted to. But I would do whatever steps I could. Then I was able to switch jobs and get in organizations where I had more autonomy, and then I could dedicate a lot more bandwidth to actually work and build my business. So a lot of people, you don't leave your job to grow your business. You grow your business so you can leave your job. All right, that and people need to make sure they
Say
understand
that
that.
again. Say that again. One more time. One more time. Say that again. Say that again.
don't don't leave your job to grow your business. Grow your business so you can leave your job.
Okay. Okay. That's
Right?
wisdom
So
right
it's
there.
it's so it's by any means necessary. How can you work on that business? And so I was putting in from 9 p.m. to midnight, probably 5 or 6 nights a week. I was doing that for years. Okay, like for years. So you think
Okay.
about, so some people see the success and see the growth, like, man, it's going so quickly. And I'm thinking, I've been working at this for a long time. You just people are just now being able to see the fruits of the labor, if you will. So find a 9 to 5 that allows you to invest in your business today and grow it to a point where you have to be able to take that leap.
I love that, Andrew. I love that. And especially um, where, we do think that sometimes it just happens overnight, right? Like just, oh my God, look at you. You're doing so much. But it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. Um, and sometimes people are just really good at making it look effortless, but we know that, that's just the optics, right? There's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of dedication, there's a lot of sacrifice. But it always boils down to your why, your purpose, and then what can you do right now, right? Like you don't have to like do everything, but what can you just do right now, start working on right now, and then watch it scale as you're ready to leave your business, ready to leave your place of employment, then you're ready to scale your business at that same time too. um, Thank you
And
so
one
much for coming on today. Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
one small example of that is I was listening to a
Hmm.
podcast, Entre Leadership Podcast, and they're interviewing the CEO of Belay, the firm we were talking about before we went on air.
Okay.
Belay is an organization that has virtual assistants, right? That's how I was able to find my executive assistant. I subscribed to their newsletter after hearing that podcast episode, knowing that at some point in the future, I would want to leverage them because I was sold on the benefits of a virtual assistant. That was probably 6 years ago, right? I just now got an executive assistant within the last 4 months. But that's an example of, hey, this is important to my why and what I want to build. Right now, it's not going to work, but let me do something that draws me closer. So I've been getting their newsletters for years now before I finally was ready to make that jump. People need to think like that. What can you do today that you know will benefit you down the road? And a lot of people don't do that because they either get discouraged at how much work it's going to take, or two, they don't know their vision, they don't know their purpose. So therefore, it's difficult to identify some of those key things that draw you to that.
Yes. Yes, and it sounds like you knew back then exactly what it is. Like the Bible says, write the vision, make it plain so that those that run upon it can read it and run. And you knew exactly, you were that crystal clear about what you wanted. That 6 years ago, you're like, "Oh, this will help." And you've manifested it to where it's a game changer at this point. So I think it really does go back to first you got to know what your vision is so that you know what your why is, and then you know what it is you need to do, and then just stay focused. Just stay focused, even though it's up and down, but that's a natural feeling, a natural emotion that we all go through. But don't stop, because if you would have stopped, where would you have been at this point? Somebody's
Absolutely.
employee.
Yeah. And I don't want to knock nine to
Yes.
fives, right? Nine to fives are the first
No,
investor
no,
and it's
and
very
no,
useful
and
information. But
that's right. That's
yeah, so
right.
but
That's right.
and I
But
would
you knew what you wanted. And
yes. Yes, I did. I just want to make that point, especially for younger generations. I tend to get a lot of feedback from people saying they want to be business owners, and there's this thought process. I don't want to work for anybody, and I think it's important for us to speak to, hey, and I studied entrepreneurship in undergrad. It's important to talk about the value that comes from nine to fives if you're intentional with what you can take from that to apply to your own business down the road. So I just
yes.
want to make
And
sure I
I
call
think on
that
the
out
flip
there.
side, if organ yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Calling it out. So we're not putting down 9 to 5s. Okay. So that's not what we're saying here. But what I say as well too is the on the organization, if the organization would allow, and I think that goes back to your book and the culture, but if organizations would allow people to bring their entrepreneurial skill sets to the job, so that individuals can come to the job and just feel like I own what I'm doing right now. I feel good about what I'm doing right now. I get to bring my whole self to this job. So then even if you don't necessarily own your own business, you can own that role. So I do see it as both, right? So
Yeah.
so my only hit was just on organizations that that don't allow people to bring their authentic self, and then it just becomes a task instead of something great to be a part of. But thank you so much for calling that out. Just in case somebody would have said, "Is she just putting us down?" No, no, not at all. Um,
Yep.
Okay, so then so I'm going to put your book back up, and talk a little bit about your book and what people can where people can buy it, or if there's anything else that you want to add of what's coming up for you.
Yeah, so if you're a leader, somebody of influence, small business owner, this book is for you. Again, it's called The Circle of Leadership. It's a framework for creating and leveraging culture. In the book, I walk through the 3 P's of culture: purpose, people, process. There's stories, statistics, practical application that you can take from it and apply. It's a short read too, so I think the folks will enjoy that. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it at my personal website, andrewadeniyi.com. If you're interested in learning more about the DEI services we provide, as well as the workplace culture services, you can find us at aaasolutions.us. So just had a new website that launched,
Okay.
aaasolutions.us, and you can learn more about our services, learn more about some of the work that we're doing for some of our clients.
So do you want to give that to me, because I want to put it on the screen for you?
Yep,
So what is that again?
yep, www.aaasolutions.us.
.us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's add here, and this is what it looks like.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to make sure that those that are listening, watching, and you come across this video, that you see how you can connect with Andrew, who is the author of say the who's the author of Circle of Leadership, a framework for creating and leveraging culture. You buy the book; it's Amazon, as well as he is the CEO and founder of AAA Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you know what? Thank you so much for joining me on today's show. Just having fun, and like I said, this is like completely just organic conversation, but we're just recording it. Hopefully, you find value. If you do, we'd like for you to like, share, comment, and share it with somebody you know who would find value. And definitely, until next time.
Take
All
care.
right, bye.
Thank you.